And when the jury has to take in that information, I want to just sort of ask you to weigh in on what effect this may have had on them. We didn't see those photos, as you know. We didn't see them. We aren't broadcasting photos like that. But I could imagine how dreadful they were. And for them to view them, what they may be thinking, feeling at this juncture, please, your thoughts.
Absolutely. When the jury has to hear and see the evidence of this crime, the decomposition, and to talk about a innocent 15-year-old's body no longer being able to truly identify her cause of death, it's gory and it's difficult. It's very effective for the state. It wakes the jurors up. It gets the jurors to pay attention. And as gruesome as it is, the jury is there for one reason, and that's to render a decision at the end of this trial as to the guilt of the or innocence of the defendant. And so any juror that's getting bored with the testimony, not understanding what the medical examiner is saying, or wishing they were on their phone, thinking about all the things they could be doing, in these moments, it brings the jury back to center, and it refocuses everyone in that courtroom as to why they're there and what their job is that day. For the defense attorney, it's to get the jury to understand that it wasn't his client, or to effectively cross-examine the witness as best they can. And for the prosecutor, it's to say, hey, members of the jury, this is why we're here. This 15-year-old deserves justice. And sometimes getting everyone to pay attention means discussing very difficult and gruesome details.
Yeah, just awful. I sure hope that the family was not in the courtroom during the medical examiner's testimony. Let's play a little clip of that now. We have a clip, and I mentioned this just briefly when I was talking with Joy, and that is how the ME said that he had to identify Riley Crossman through dental records. Let's go back to that moment now.
Would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how the ME's office was able to identify Riley Crossman?
We were able to identify her body using the radiology comparison studies, especially the radiology comparison studies, especially her teeth. We take x-rays of the decedent's teeth and forward that with already pre-mortem set of x-rays of teeth to our odontologist or dentist, basically, who compares the x-rays of teeth before death and after death.
So post-mortem and ante-mortem.
That's correct.
Images, okay. And were images of Riley's teeth from Smile Frederick Orthodontics provided to your office for identification?
Yes.
And based upon a review of the radiographs for those images, were you able to positively identify the decedent in this case?
Yes.
And that is Riley Crossman?
That's correct.
It's so sad thinking about that, but this is what we see sometimes in homicide cases. Holly, tell me, just listening back to that little bit of testimony from the ME, what was going through your mind, please?
Well, I really liked how the prosecutor drew the jury back away from the science of what the ME was testifying. MEs are very knowledgeable. They're very scientific. They're going to have a lot of jargon and lingo that might be difficult. The prosecutor then drew the jury's attention back to the fact that these records were provided by the orthodontist. And when you think of orthodontists, now every single person on that jury is right back to the reality and not into the scientific world. So as I watched that clip, it reminded me of the humanity of this, 15-year-old, and that this is a child. You don't, the orthodontics of a 15-year-old and those records being submitted as the only way that this medical examiner could identify the body really resonates. And again, it sets the tone for the state's case. I'm not surprised that it's coming at the end, because I imagine the prosecution wants to rest at a time where the jury is incensed and angry that it took 8 days to find this young woman.
Mm-hmm.